No truth, no mercy, and no knowledge of God. This is how God defines the people of Israel. But is this how God would define the world of today? Think about the list that we just made, that God just made. No truth. You remember when Jesus was standing before Pilate, and he said, "Those who are of the truth are going to hear my voice." So I think the point he's trying to make is, if you're of the truth, you're going to listen to Jesus. Jesus is the one that you're going to listen to, you're going to hear, not all the noise and the worldviews that are coming out of the world and that are man-made and have entirely man-originated, but you listen to Jesus. He's the one that you're interested in and what he has to say. Well, Pilate responds. He says a very fundamental question: what is truth? See, that really poses a problem for an individual if they want to be of the truth, if they don't know what truth is. And we're not talking about just any kind of truth. We're not talking about just facts and figures and data. We're talking about what can be known absolutely. What is absolute truth? And I think the implication of his question is there is no absolute truth. And if it did exist, then what is it? So not only is he, I think, implying in his question that it doesn't exist, but I think he's implying that if it did exist, people would know about it. Well, Jesus is saying there is absolute truth. And if you are of that truth, then you're going to listen to Jesus. If you're seeking after that truth, you're going to listen to Jesus. Well, in Israel, there was no truth. And what God is saying is, I think in a sense, is because no one's listening to God. And what happens when there's no truth? When there's no truth, there's no standard. There's no standard of conduct. There's no standard of morality. There's no standard of ethics. And what ends up happening is people just kind of end up doing what they think is right, which is okay if everyone thinks the same way. It's okay if everyone in the world goes, you know what, I woke up this morning and you know what, I think that it's not good to murder someone. Well, that's very good for you and me, because we're going to wake up, get out of bed, go out into the world, and that individual that thinks that, we know that we're not going to be murdered by that individual or harmed by that individual. That's great. That's great news. But what happens when that individual, for some reason, wakes up and has a change of thought, changes their mind, and they go, you know what? I know that I've lived my life thinking it's not okay to murder, but I think here should be an exception. For example, an individual treated me wrong. An individual hurt me, or an individual looked at me the wrong way. Where is the line, really? Well, there is none, because there's no truth. I mean, look at Cain, for example. God told Cain, anybody who murders Cain is going to be punished sevenfold. Okay, well, that gives a little comfort to Cain, because it's like, well, maybe that will incentivize people to not hurt him and not murder him. Well, murder for murder makes sense, but one of his descendants, Lamech, says, I murdered someone for hurting me, for harming me. Wait a second. I mean, I understand murder for murder, but someone hurt you? And now all of a sudden you get to take their life? What about Cain when he murdered his brother? It's like, you're angry, you're upset, so you just get to murder someone? See, where do you draw the line? Where then is it, do you say, you wake up in the morning and you go, you know what? It's wrong to murder. Well, why would you ever be motivated at all to do that if there is no standard of morality? I guess you could say, well, I don't want other people murdering me, so I'm not going to murder them. Which, by the way, is a principle directly from the mouth of Jesus. But the point is, even if you are going to adopt contractualism where you have this, this secret pact, this contract with mankind that says, I'm not going to hurt you, you don't hurt me. What's to say that someone doesn't wake up and say, you know what? I'm not going to sign on to the contract. I'm not going to go with that. I don't believe with your opinion of truth. What standard are you going to hold them to? Well, if there's no absolute truth, you've got no standard to hold. Maybe you say, well, law, okay, that's good. But what if a nation decides the law should be something that, I don't know, allows murder? See, the problem is everything is so subjective and up to the person that wakes up and lifts their head off the bed in the morning. It's completely up to whether they're going to decide not to harm you and your family. And I don't know about you, but that just doesn't seem fair. And the fact of the matter is, it's not the way things are. Because whether the government or the law of the land is going to step up and enforce morality, God will. And Lamech thought that he could get away with murdering someone in a very unjust way. But God is going to bring justice. And Israel needs to know that. Whether you believe in truth or not, whether you believe in absolute truth or not, it doesn't change the fact that it exists. And it may be, okay, well, I agree with certain things. It doesn't matter what you agree with. See, the whole point of objectivity is that it exists, whether you believe it or not. And so when there is no absolute truth, it severely threatens an individual's understanding of behavior and conduct. For example, mercy. Yeah, let's take murder as we're talking about. You may see those movies or TV shows or whatever it may be, books, and someone is begging for their life at the hands of someone else who's about to put them to death. Please don't kill me. Please don't murder me. And the individual that goes through with the murder is the one that is unmerciful. Because this individual is begging for their life, and the other person has absolutely no empathy. They don't care at all. No mercy. Why should they have mercy? What standard of truth obligates them to have any mercy? You could extend that to forgiveness. You ever wronged someone and asked for forgiveness and they say, I'm not going to forgive you? What standard do they have to forgive you? They lift their head off their pillow every morning just like you do, and they get to make the decision whether they're going to forgive or not. They get to make the decision whether they're going to steal or not, and they get to make the decision whether they're going to lie or not, or cheat or not, or murder. Just like you. What's the difference? The difference is there truth? Because if there's truth, then you have incentive to show mercy, to treat people right, to have empathy, treat people the way they want to be treated, seek justice. There's the incentive. And so, no truth, no mercy, and then finally he says, no knowledge of God. How do you get to a point in your society where there is no knowledge of God? Do you start with the knowledge of God? According to the biblical description, everyone starts with the knowledge of God. You might say, well, I don't know if I agree with that. Well, let's look at it. Adam and Eve began with the knowledge of God. And their descendants, Cain, for example, he began with the knowledge of God. He spoke to God, didn't he? So his lineage, at some point, knew God. Take Noah, for example. He knew God. He spoke to God, didn't he? He knew he was supposed to build an ark. And then he went into the ark, and then the ark floated. Like, he saw all of the work of God. So at what point in his lineage did people not have the knowledge of God? So how does a nation, how does a people not have the knowledge of God? I think the answer is in Romans chapter 1. It's through the suppression of truth, Paul says. Well, if you suppress the truth, what's going to happen? Then the truth is not going to be told. And if the truth is not told, then the truth is not known. And when the truth is not known, then there's no knowledge of God. And so, to answer the question, it starts with people that know God, and through the efforts of the people, they cause their offspring to have less knowledge of God, less knowledge of God, less knowledge of God, until finally you look around and you go, where's God? He's not here. Israel got to that point. By the way, as did all the nations of the world. You might even say, as did many nations of the world today. You might even ask the question, are we down that road in the country that we live in? Or in the country that you live in? No truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God.